good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I am Maribel Rivera, and this is episode 3 of We Are ACEDS. Today, I will be speaking with Kenya Dixon, General Counsel and Chief Operating Officer at Empire Technology Risk Management Group. But before we get to that, I just want to make sure that you know every other week, every other Wednesday, we're here, noon Eastern, spotlighting all of the members, the partners, our leaders in our community. So I invite you to follow ACEDS on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitter, where you'll find us live every week. And now let me kick us off with Kenya Dixon. Hi, Kenya.
Hi, Maribel, how are you?
I am awesome. How are you? And thank you so much for joining me.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. I wanted to start off by congratulating you on the launch of your new company. So congratulations. Can you share a little bit? Can you share a little bit with me about ETRM and why you joined the team there to launch the group?
Oh, absolutely. Well, Empire Technologies Risk Management Group is a holding company for data corporations and companies that are cybersecurity focused and cybersecurity centric. And so while we focus on e-discovery, information governance, managed review, and all of those things that are litigation support related, we really are a cybersecurity company that is focused on cybersecurity infrastructure, risk management, and how to make sure that all of the data that lives in litigation support environments is secure and meet certain standards within the cybersecurity platform.
Well, I mean, this is the perfect time for you to launch. One, because it's National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I don't know if you knew that, but it's perfect. And so I'd love to talk a little bit about how you think your role will evolve. Well, first, let me go back to, you worked several years at the White House, the FDIC, FTC. What was that experience like, and how did that shape you for this role now with Empire Technologies?
Well, I spent most of my career outside of the federal government, but once I entered the federal government and started working with these different agencies, I realized that every agency has a specific mission, and that the employees, the staff that work in those agencies, they dedicate their lives to that mission and to public service for this country, for the Republic. And so I was able to get really a very good understanding of how the federal government operates from the standpoint of infrastructure, from acquisitions, from workflow, the different litigation and investigatory powers that the government has, and to understand the staff and what motivates them. So for me, that's been a great advantage. And my goal for each of those agencies was to make sure that the agency, whether it was beefing up or it was becoming leaner, that to make sure that their workflows were efficient, that they were technologically advanced, and that the staff was able to do their job with the best tools in the marketplace at that time.
Excellent. How do you think your role will evolve for the continued growth of data science, privacy laws, and cybersecurity as part of the legal process? And how did all of that structure and strategies that you put in place as part of your goals play a part in that?
Well, so while I was in the federal government, the interesting thing is very frequently corporations would try to sell us a solution, whether it be some hardware, software, staffing, whatever it was. And always the price was $10 million, right? It's just, the government is always being, offered a $10 million solution when really what you might need is a more efficient workflow. You might need tools, hardware, and software combined that really cost $1 million, right? And so understanding from the inside of the government what it is that I always wanted for that agency, that particular agency, but never really being able to get the solution that was best at leveraging and uplifting that agency. I really thought that if I were on the outside again, what I could do was help to provide the government with the services and the goods that they need at a reasonable and fair price, but also to provide the expertise that understands how the government works. I think it's really difficult to know the differences between the federal government and the private sector unless you've spent a great deal of time in both. And so I really had a great understanding now of the privacy issues, the litigation issues, the FOIA issues, the cybersecurity issues, the infrastructure issues, the budget constraints that the federal government has, and how to service all of that to uplift an agency. And I think that the federal government has done a very good job of understanding how to protect the country's data because you have privacy issues and you have healthcare information, you have data that is top secret, confidential, secret. You have all of these different stratifications with regards to the security of data. And so the government has had to spend a lot of resources and time figuring that out and putting the best solutions in place. And I'd like to bring that to the private sector. I think it's time for the private sector to understand cybersecurity around litigation data. And so that's
it's interesting that it's interesting that you talk a little bit about that. So one of the things I think we were having a conversation earlier this week with someone, and they talked about federal privacy laws, right? And do you think that that's something that we need to put in place? I know right now we've got individual states doing it, but do you see that coming into play?
Well, so we're starting to see both privacy. So we've got healthcare laws, right? HIPAA has been out there for quite a while saying you have to keep healthcare data secured. We haven't done a great job in this country of securing the healthcare data. It's my understanding that a great deal of our healthcare information is floating around on the dark web. And privacy laws, we're starting to see them roll out. Europe has done a good job with GDPR so far, just getting some infrastructure around that in place. The CCPA is out. We're starting to see cybersecurity laws roll out. New York has a new cybersecurity law. The federal government has a new regulation around cybersecurity. So we're starting to see these laws that will be the foundation of the direction that we move into really starting to take hold, and they're really very necessary. So I think a lot of people are very, very invested in the privacy laws and how you protect people's privacy, but you can't protect privacy unless you protect everything. Right? So you've got to be able to protect and secure all of the data. That starts with the entire environment, with your data center, with your infrastructure, with data being encrypted at rest, being encrypted in transit, who has access to that data. All of those protocols from the very beginning to the very end have got to be standardized for every entity in the country.
So you're really looking at the whole information governance side first, placing that those cybersecurity policies and procedures in place for someone, and looking at that information governance side all the way to the e-discovery side.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think in our industry, we've done a very good job of understanding, how information governance ties into litigation support. We really have figured out how to collect data, right? So if you have a subpoena, how do you collect it? Is it a forensic collection? Is it an internal collection? Do you collect across custodians or just by custodian? We figured that out. We've figured out all of the data loading, what fields and metadata and all of that need to be collected and need to be loaded into an application. We've figured out review tools. We've figured out data analytics for the most part, right? Predictive coding and computer assisted technology and AI. We've figured that out for litigation support very well. We understand how to produce data, whether to use SFTP or to use some form of media to get the data, and how to review that data. We figured all of that out. What hasn't happened, in my opinion, is the industries that host client data and legal data have not figured out the importance of securing that data from end to end. So the litigation support and information governance models are not going to change tremendously, but how you secure that entire body of data and move that data from location to location safely and securely is something that law firms and corporations have not really done a great job at. And the reason they haven't done a great job at it is because a lot of the understanding of cybersecurity and data security really has come from the military and from the federal government. It hasn't really kicked off in the private sector. And so, when you look at nation states that are trying to hack or breach our infrastructure, our corporations, our law firms, those nation states often act as public and private entities combined into one. They take all of their knowledge and understanding of technology, they bring it to bear to attack us. We have a church and state sort of mentality around private sector and government. And so we don't treat them as if they're the same thing, and we don't communicate across that divide to make sure that the infrastructure for all of our innovative technology in this country is secure. If you think about it, all of American ingenuity sits in law firm databases. All of our trademarks, our patents, our contracts, our PII, our HIPAA protected information, all of our trade secrets, the entirety of American genius and ingenuity sits in law firm databases. So it's time for us to really consider, how do we secure all of that, and what are the best solutions to do that? And they really do come from the experts in the government space. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is bring the government expertise into the ETRM group, and then use that to support the federal government on the government side of the company, but also to bring that to bear in the private sector side to help law firms and corporations manage this data. And to do it efficiently, and to do it at a fair and reasonable price, because not everything should cost $10 million. It's not necessary for every hammer to cost $1,000. At some point in time, the industry has got to be able to find an efficient way to do this and protect our best assets.
So just another quick question around that then. When you talk to your clients and they want to be educated, where do you point them to? Where do they educate themselves? So when they're having a conversation with you around these things, that they understand what they should know, and how do they get that knowledge?
So lawyers are typically experts in their field, right? So what they do, they concentrate on that and they work on that, and they have to rely on experts in other fields to manage the things that require expertise. Cybersecurity is one of those things that requires expertise. So I'm not expecting a lawyer that we're meeting with to have a full understanding of the cybersecurity. I expect them to understand the value of their clients' data, to understand what happens, what sort of liability attaches to having your data breached or exposed or sold, particularly on the dark web, and to know how to hire corporations, companies, or talent to help them navigate that environment. There are bodies of work that help you in the cybersecurity world. So for instance, NIST does a great job of laying out multiple controls that are good for information governance, records keeping, cybersecurity, and cloud security. There are lots of protocols. Those NIST protocols are rolled up into FedRAMP, right? The FedRAMP protocol that the federal government uses to provide an authority to operate for cloud data. When you're putting data in a private cloud or a cloud solution in the federal government, the FedRAMP authorization gets you through those protocols. So that's a place where you can go to find out what those protocols look like. And more recently, the Association of Corporate Counsel has rolled out the Data Steward Program for law firms and corporations general counsel's office, so that there is a standard, an industry standard for cybersecurity for client data. And I have worked very closely with the ACC. I sit on the Data Steward Program working group, and it's taken a couple of years to put this in place. Of course, we weren't anticipating that COVID would come and take place and people would disperse and be working from their home. But the same protocols need to be in place. And so as we watch law firms getting breached repeatedly, and even watch e-discovery vendors getting breached, this rollout from the ACC is really very important because it will set the standard for the entire industry with regards to cybersecurity. They'll be offering an accreditation. So that accreditation will help law firms make sure that they have not just documentation, but that they have gone through the work to secure their environment and to secure client data. And an ETRM group is an ACC recommended service provider. So we'll be working with law firms and corporations to make sure that they bring their cybersecurity and they document those cybersecurity protocols so that they can get that accreditation and remediate that. You know, if they don't meet the standards initially, to help them to meet remedial measures, but also to help them manage and maintain that standard until their next accreditation.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. So talking a little bit more about that, you work with various associations like ACC and ACEDS and around e-discovery and its continuous evolution. What is the biggest challenge you see e-discovery professionals facing today, and how do we leverage technology to find solutions to those challenges?
So I think, I think what I've been saying is that cybersecurity, or the security of our data, is security, cyber information security governance, information governance. I think those are really the big challenges. Yeah, I think we figure out the rest of that, that model. I don't see any new work coming from that. I don't know, with the exception of artificial intelligence or AI, I don't really know where you go with regards to litigation data, right? But the security of it is really where you have to move right now. And professionals have got to learn and understand all of the language, the terminology, but also the protocols for keeping data safe. I remember years ago, I worked for one of the larger defense corporations, and I had a project manager who wanted to transport some federal data from an attorney general's office to the federal government on a hard drive that was not encrypted. And I remember saying, no, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. Because if you go to the bathroom and leave the hard drive sitting on the seat in the train station or on the train, you get off and leave that hard drive, then that data has been exposed, and we're going to end up on the front page of the Washington Post. And that sort of basic common sense security was lacking as early as 2010, right, or as late as 2010. We really didn't have an understanding of securing data. That's the next frontier. It's here now. And so we've got to, cyber e-discovery professionals have got to get in the same room with cybersecurity professionals and learn that area of this industry.
It sounds like we may need you to lead the charge here at ACEDS around cybersecurity, some of our programs around cybersecurity.
Willing to.
As you go about your day, so you've got this new company, you've got a lot of things going on. As you go about your day building a new company, managing a team, and working on client projects, what are the 3 tools that help you stay organized and on top of things?
So the first tool is not technology. The first tool is mindfulness.
I love that.
When you're in a position like this, I spend a lot of time moving from task to task, from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. There's marketing, there's HR, there's there's projects for clients, there's the government side, there's the private sector, there's staffing, there's all of these different things. And so sometimes you have to be mindful of your overall goal, take a breath, learn to breathe, because I have not been a person who's stopped for a number of years. So mindfulness, I think, is the first tool. The second thing is we, as a corporation, we use Office 365. We're huge users of Teams. We also use Zoom, and we use other tools to collaborate. I'm really big on collaborative tools. I think working together and having repositories where you can share data, you can speak to one another, you can create tasks for each other and communicate. I think that's very important. And now that so many of us are at home, I like the ability to call people on a project right through the Teams application. So we use Teams, and we use a CRM. We're in the process of trying to decide whether or not Salesforce will be an enterprise-wide tool here, because it's a great tool for managing your day-to-day activities, and keeping you on track and keeping the sales team moving. And so, mindfulness, Teams, and Salesforce.
I love the mindfulness piece because I have been trying to practice that more and more, especially being over the last 6 months, right? Just mindfulness, especially having tons of Zoom meetings, lots of team meetings, all things going on. And so I try to take that moment before every meeting, which is not always easy because they're sometimes back to back, and just kind of get back into into the present area, right? Where am I? Download from the meeting before and kind of bring myself back to start. So I love the mindfulness piece. I do a lot of breathing exercises lately. So I think that's one of the things that I've been practicing.
Well, the Zoom meetings are absolutely exhausting. Who knew? Because at least when we were all together, going to a meeting was a respite unto itself. You had to gather your things, prepare for the meeting, and actually travel to the meeting, even if it was just to another office or another conference room, another floor, another building. Now we're just sitting in the same place, attending meeting after meeting after meeting. And so, I think my exercise routine is going to have to be amped up a bit to keep up with that.
Yeah. Do you think that it makes a difference also? For me, it makes a difference. I think being in person, my energy is different, right? I build up my energy. It's great to have the Zoom meetings, but my energy is, when you're in a meeting, it's just a different kind of environment around you. So your energy is a little bit more than being in a Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. And I think that causes some of that the fatigue that we're feeling.
Yeah, we certainly have had to learn new rules. We all knew how to communicate in person in a boardroom or in a conference room. We knew how to come to the table and have those conversations. It's very different here when you're anticipating whether or not to speak, or you're trying not to speak over the other person or persons. All of the technology that goes around it, trying to make sure that you're speaking in a way that other people can understand, that you're not using I'm a person, I use my hands to speak. And so that's very distracting. The background, I'm very concerned always with the background.
It looks amazing, so don't worry about it.
And of course, for women, I find that for us to be on camera, we have to at least put some makeup on and try to make ourselves look great. I get on conference calls with men and they look like they just crawled out of hibernation. So, for women, there's a different, completely different set of rules for how we navigate this space. But I think we're all doing our best, and I've seen a lot of improvement in the way that we are navigating these Zoom calls over the last few months.
Good. I think I have too. I think people are adjusting little by little, and we don't know how long we're going to be doing this. So I think we're just going to continue to adjust and evolve through this.
Right.
Last month, you received the Relativity Innovation Award for Stellar Women in eDiscovery for 2020. What does that mean to you?
Well, let me say I'm humbled and I'm grateful and I'm honored. I really feel a great deal um, of thankfulness to Relativity. That's a large group of women that are nominated every year. Most of those women are absolutely stellar in every respect. Many of the women that are nominated have been my mentors, my mentees, people who have listened to me when I've needed to bounce ideas off of other people, or vent, right? Or just explain my own insecurities around an issue or a solution. And so the list of women that are nominated every year is phenomenal. And so I feel very honored to have received this award. Also, I think that, Relativity has been a wonderful partner to me for a number of years. I have installed Relativity into, federal environments. I have gutted one agency and torn out another tool and installed Relativity because it's a great tool. And so I think that they've been a great partner. I've made a number of friends there, and I've learned a lot from a lot of their staff. They've been very good at hiring staff that's knowledgeable and people who have great personalities. So I'm very honored, and I'm thankful.
Yeah, they're an amazing team over there. I agree, and they're really good friends to ACEDS, so we appreciate them here too. So
And
talking,
congratulations on your award, Maribel.
thank you, which is perfect because my award is all about inclusion. And you and I have talked about this. Every so often we've talked about inclusion and diversity and the need for that. And here at ACEDS, we just launched our IDEA committee, which is Inclusion, Diversity, Equality, Awareness, and Action Committee. We're doing our first event tonight, which is in celebration of Latinx Heritage Month. And so for you, and I see you as this, you're a strong woman leader in the industry, you're a strong woman leader, period, and a person of color in our industry. What are some of the lessons learned that have been most influential for you? And what piece of advice has made the biggest difference in your career?
So I would say that relationships prosper when you connect based on a common thread. And so the thread need not be politics, race, gender. The thread can be a number of things. For instance, parents. It doesn't matter the politics of your kids,
Right.
what gender or race your children are. As a parent, you still have to make sure that you do certain things and you still have the same anxieties, and that's a point of connection. How you grew up, where you grew up, your experiences as kids, schools and colleges and all of those things, parenting styles, all of these things that we all have that are very common threads amongst Americans are things that we can connect to each other through. And I think that those things are far greater than race, gender, or politics. And I think we're living in a time where people feel very deeply their politics. And I would say to people in that respect is that, politics is a 4 to 8 year cycle. We all have to still be connected regardless of who is in these offices from year to year or decade to decade. We still have a lot more in common than the things that separate us. And so that's the first thing. Connect on your common threads, and the things that are difficult, don't engage on those issues until you have a deeper relationship. The other thing is that I remember a boss telling me several years ago, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought about that for years, because I think the thing that makes a leader effective is when the team brings you multiple options, or when you give your team multiple options. And so for many years, my thought was to find the solution and to drive towards that solution. And now my thought is to find these solutions and to understand where each solution gets you, and to know that solutions can come in different packages and different forms, and at different price tags. That the best solution isn't always the most expensive solution. So I think really understanding there's more than one way to skin a cat when you're doing solution searching is a piece of my fiber now when it comes to my work environment.
I love that. And I love that you talked about just kind of finding that common thread with someone, because as you know, for me and for you, my tribe, right, is very, very diverse. I have very, very diverse tribe. They go from you, and you know, I have Kelly Twiggers, the Richard Levi Fitzgeralds, the Mike Quadraros. I mean, there's so many different people in my tribe, and for me, everything should be about what's the common thread between them. So I love that you said that. And going to that, because you know, thinking about all the men who I look up to as advisory board members for my personal brand. In this male-dominated industry, what do you think some of the greatest challenges women have in aspiring to leadership roles? And how do we overcome those?
Well, I think there are a number of things, but I think opportunity and pay are really important. So I think that women need to be given opportunities, and we need to take the opportunity when it presents itself, to step into those positions, even when things are difficult. And I think we need partners in these spaces. So if you're raising children and you're doing it alone, or you feel like you're doing it alone, even though you have a partner or partners or whatever that is, having the opportunity to step into these business or executive roles, I think is very important. And I think paying women what we deserve to be paid. You know, a lot of times women are still paid less than men for the same job. It's been proven that women will work twice as hard for half as much pay. And so I say, if you pay women what we deserve, then that will open up for us the opportunity to step into more to more places in this industry. So I think opportunity, pay, and I also think I sit on the advisory board for Women Influence Law and Power, which we refer to as WIPL. And I've been attending those conferences for years, and I've noticed there's an uptick in women talking about using executive coaches. And I heard a woman say on one of the panels that men have been using executive coaches for decades. I would say to women, get an executive coach. You know, if that's an investment, if you can get your company, your corporation, law firm, your agency to pay for an executive coach. My executive coaches have helped me grow tremendously, not just in this space, but with regards to projects, with regards to how to handle staff and issues and dilemmas, how to grasp for the next thing. Executive coaches are tremendously important. And I think women need to be told that this is an option and it's a priority option. And so I'm a huge fan of executive coaching. I've had a coach since, I want to say 2016. The Federal Trade Commission provided our executive coaching to management in the Bureau of Consumer Protection. And so I took advantage of that. And then I hired my own executive coach. I have one that I meet with once a week, and it's tremendously empowering. And so I think that for women to catch up to men, that's one of the keys.
I think I totally agree with you there. I have to say, I worked at the Cowan Group for several years. And while I was at the Cowan Group, David Cowan invested in me by getting me an executive coach. And that made a world of difference in a lot of things, and just building the relationship there and what I took from there and could build on outside of that. So I do agree with that. And you have to ask, right? There's sometimes we're so afraid to ask but we need to learn to ask.
Right. And the interesting thing is David Cowan is really wonderful when it comes to developing talent, and in particular female talent. There are a lot of women, yourself included, in this industry that I know came through David Cowan's offices. And many of those women I still have relationships with to this day, and you can tell he invested in each of you. And so I would say that, men can be allies if you trust them and if you ask for what you want. And they're great supporters when you're supporting their mission and you're supporting what it is that they're doing. So I think using men in the sense that you're partnering with them to get to the next level is very important as well. Men are great allies.
I agree. I mean, I have allies that are great friends that I go to whenever I have a question about my career, my professional growth, my company, all of that. Those are people that I rely on because I just have built a separate kind of conversation with them than I have with others. So yes, I totally agree with you. So last couple of questions for you. What's coming up for Kenya and for ETRM Group?
So those two are really pretty much intertwined. I am the general counsel and the chief operating officer for Empire Technologies Risk Management Group. I see myself being here for several years to get us to the next level. We're in the midst of mergers and acquisitions. We're also, chasing two very divergent paths, the government sector as well as private sector, law firms and corporations. And so that's a lot to manage, and that's a lot to build and to lead. And so we're growing, and I'm excited about that. So I think that a lot of Kenya is caught up in ETRM Group right now, but I'm so passionate about this industry. I'm passionate about our mission, and so it's delightful. I've never been happier. I'm working at home. My daughter's working from home. I'm very productive. A lot is happening. I'm making partnerships with people that I have admired, liked, and loved for decades. And so nothing is more satisfying than working with people that you enjoy, that you like. My goal in life was not just to be successful in my career, but to work with people that I really like and respect, and people that could teach me. My CEO is wonderfully intelligent and driven, and he's taught me so much in the last year and a half that I've known him and worked with him. And he's generous with his knowledge and his information. Like I said, men are wonderful allies. And there are a number of people in the federal government that I'm pulling into our space because, again, I really believe that from a cybersecurity standpoint, this industry benefits from the knowledge of the military and the federal government. And so I'm pulling those experts in so that they can help the private sector protect our most valuable asset, which is the American ingenuity. And so we're caught up in that, and every day is busy, but every day is different. And I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm happier than I've ever been.
I'm so glad to hear that because, I just love to see everybody happy. So that makes me happy. How can they find Kenya? Where can they reach out to you if they've got interest, and where can they find ETRM?
So you can go to etrmgroup.com. That's our website. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And you can reach me at kenya.dixon@etrmgroup.com.
Thank you, Kenya. Any last words, anything you want to share with everybody?
I'd like to say thank you to ACEDS and to you for having me today. ACEDS has been a wonderful partner. I've been involved with ACEDS since I think the very beginning when the program was created. And I think it does wonderful work. I think you and Mike Quadraro and the team there has really been, I never thought that I'd watch ACEDS grow so quickly. And so I think you guys have done a tremendous job over the last year, and I'm excited to see where we go from there.
Thank you. And we're excited too, because we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary starting this month. So we're very excited. Thank you so much for joining us, Kenya. I am so glad to have you as part of We Are ACEDS, and sitting on our global advisory board and just being a part of everything that we do. So we love that. I want to say thank you to everybody who watched and participated. This is probably by far one of my favorite events, only because I love and adore Kenya so much. You can catch us again in 2 weeks, every other Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern. All of the playbacks are on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, so you can catch those there as well. And if you have questions, if you want to reach out to us, feel free. You can always leave comments, or you can reach out to me at mrivera@aceds.org, and I'll get right back to you. And that's everything we have for today. This is, again, Maribel Rivera, Senior Director at ACEDS. Have a great day.
Thank you.